All right, we're going to be studying graphing compound inequalities, and we're going to talk about something called compounds and something called disjunctions. And so let's just review just like regular graphing, okay, of the inequalities. So if we had x is less than or equal to 5, we just come over here with our number line, right? And we didn't really need graph paper for it. Usually I like at least to have a 0 so we can at least know where our negatives and positives are going. And so does this have an open or a closed circle?
It has a closed.
Yes, closed circle because of that equal to. And this says that x is less than 5, and less ones go this way. And we noticed last time that if x was on this side, that kind of like looks like an arrow and points. But be careful not to always use that. Really go by x is less, and all the things are less this way. They also talked about, instead of us, they usually, let's even change the color here. They usually highlight on the line itself. And so you can do that, but I was suggesting that you actually bring it up so we don't have to worry about is it dark enough to really read the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when we're going to be doing compounds, we're going to have two inequalities on one number line. Okay, and there are two different ways we can do that. We're going to talk about some vocabulary words first. We're going to talk about the word and the word or before we even start. Okay, and I'm going to do a scenario. If I told you I had a nickel and a dime, okay, and if I opened up my wallet and I pulled out a nickel and I didn't have anything more, would I have lied to you? I would have, right? Because a nickel and a dime implies that I have both, right? Okay.
Oh. Okay.
But if I would have done this, if I would have said I have a nickel or a dime, and I open up my wallet and I say I pull out a nickel and I hand it to you, was I lying to you? No, because the word or implies that I have one or the other. And so these have meanings that are different from each other. If I say and, it means I have both. If I say or, it means I have one or the other. Okay? And so we're going to be dealing with that when we talk about compounds. And the word compound is going to go with the word and. And the word disjunction is going to go with the word or. Okay? And so we're going to first start off by graphing an and. Okay? Sometimes two inequalities are combined in a specific range of values with the upper and lower limits. For example, a particular medicine needs to be kept at a temperature which is above freezing but below 50 degrees. And so they have the word and in here. They said above freezing and below 50. The acceptable temperature range can be expressed as an inequality. X is greater than 32 because that's where freezing would be. And it has to be, X has to be less than 50. So if we were to graph this, I don't care where the 0 is at this point. Just put the 32 and the 50 and make sure that the 50 is over on this end because it's not towards that way. They're going to be open circles, because both of them in this case, because we don't have that little underlines in there. Okay? And since we just look at each one of them, we say X is greater than 32.
So it's going to go this way.
So it's going to go this way, right? And it's going to be, X is going to be bigger than 50, okay? We can't keep these going forever this way, and we can't keep them going forever this way.
No, because
that wouldn't be true. It's not true out here, and it's not true out here. It's only true in the middle. And so your textbook, when you see answers, is going to have it highlighted larger here between, okay? And graphs always come together like this. Okay, they're always going to be in the middle between them because the acceptable range is between 32 and 50. It's between. Okay. So let's do one. Now this is called a compound. Or actually, I'm sorry, I totally wrote that wrong back here. This should not have been called a compound. It should have been called a conjunction. A conjunction. Both of these are compounds. This is a conjunction, and this over here, I should not have written compound. I should have written conjunction. Okay, so what we did here was called an and graph, and your textbook calls it a conjunction.
Okay.
All right, so let's do one that's a disjunction or an or graph, okay? Two inequalities can also be written as a disjunction, a condition which requires that only one of the two inequalities be true. Disjunctions are written by combining two inequalities with the word or, okay? This conjunction can be illustrated by restating the example above. The temperature below 32 are too low, or the temperature above 50 is too high. So this medicine that they were talking about can be really low or really high, but not in the middle. So they can be written the inequality like this: x is less than or equal to 32, or x is greater than 50. So we're going to have the same two numbers that we had before. But this time, the temperature can be smaller or equal to 32, or it can be greater than or equal to 50, but not in the middle, okay? This is an or graph, and I want you to notice that they're going out from each other, okay? And so if your textbook would be highlighting them at the ends down here, but not in the center, okay?
Right.
And so we had two different graphs. This would be the disjunction. We had two different graphs. We had the and graph, which they come together, and an or graph that come apart. I want you to notice that we are not going to ever have a graph that go both like that, or we won't have a graph that comes both this direction. Okay, they're either going to come apart or together. Okay. I want to jump back to this and graph for a minute. We wrote this here with one long statement, but we could have written this as a smaller one by putting x in the center and putting our 32 here and our 50 here. We can put x in the center and say that since it's kind of between, x is between the 32. And so x is going to be greater than the 32 but less than the 50. And I want you to notice that these are going the same direction when an and, okay? And if you have a hard time, I don't know if their assignment, let me see if they're going to have you ever write it that way, but they might. Oh, they're going to give them to you that way. Okay. So they're actually going to give them to you like this. And if you ever see them together like this, you know it's an and graph. You know that they're coming together.
Okay.
When you're doing an or graph, you can't write them as one concise, small one. You're going to have to just put the or in the middle. So the and graphs will be written concise and small, but the or graphs will be long. Okay. So let's see what else we got here. Let's do some examples. Okay.
Oh, wow. That's really it?
Yeah.
What?
So they want you to graph the solutions of the compound inequality of x greater than negative 3 and x less than or equal to 7. They want you to realize they could have written this negative 3 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 7. So we could have written it like that also. Okay. All right. So we're going to again put our inequality, negative 3 and a 7. Since this is an and graph, we know they're going to come both together. But we want to make sure that we're doing everything right. We know this is going to be an open circle. This is going to be a closed circle. Let's just make sure. X is bigger than negative 3. So it's coming this way, right? And x is smaller than 7, so it's coming this way. Okay.
Right.
All right? And it is coming together, like it's supposed to, right? Let's do the next one. X is less than or equal to negative 2, or x is greater than 0. Notice they didn't give you another example of how we can write it. It's all this long thing. All right, where does the negative 2 go? Down here, yes. And a 0, okay? And so this is an or graph. Are there any closed or open circles?
Yeah, it's open, right?
Yes, both of them are open. Or graphs come together or apart?
Apart.
And let's check it. Let's make sure. X is smaller than negative 2, or less than. Smaller. Going on. X is larger than 0, so yes, it's going apart. Okay. All right. There we go.
Yeah,
that's
not
it.
that bad.
Pretty easy. Okay. Just remember that ands come together and ors go apart. Okay, you have it all together.
Right.
Okay. All right.